You know, the other day I was watching a YouTube video about this experiment that a bunch of doctors and researchers did where they cut people's brains in half. You know how your brain is essentially made of the left side and the right side, and in the middle there's something called a cranium? And when people deal— no, not a lobotomy. Lobotomy is different. But sometimes when people deal with like severe epilepsy, they cut the brain in half. So it doesn't affect them as much, right? And they got a bunch of people that they did the procedure on and tested how their cognitive functions work. It's really interesting, you know? Or what I found most interesting about the research paper is that they would show one eye a picture, either the left or the right eye, and the person would see like a bicycle, and then their hand would start drawing a bicycle, but they didn't know why they were drawing a bicycle. And sometimes they would show like a funny picture to one eye, and the person would laugh. They would be amused. And then when the researcher asked them, like, why did you laugh? Why were you amused? They would say, oh, something like, oh, your machine is funny. And they were so confident about it. It's interesting. It's really interesting, but it really puts into perspective how sometimes you feel a certain way, but you really don't know how, but your brain tries to justify it anyway and make explanations for it. Yeah, it's two separate consciousnesses in your brain. And if you have a cranium, they communicate with each other, and so they're like mushed together into one consciousness. If they separate your cranium, it's a bit more complicated. It's harder for the two sides of your brain to communicate, you know? The left half of the brain deals with communication normally, and the right half doesn't get to communicate with the outside world. Yeah, apparently, you guys know how in your brain, your thought process, you talk to yourself in your head, you know? Apparently, that happens in one side of the brain, and it doesn't happen in the other. The other one, I think, is just emotions. But yeah, I thought the video was really interesting. Wait, let me try to remember what the YouTuber's name was, because he does a lot of videos like that. Something Scott. John Scott? Wait, hold on, I can find it. 1 second. His name is Joe Scott. The video is the surgery that proved there is no free will, which is clickbait, but it's still an interesting video. Remember when you said want to have existential crisis and talked about AI? This is giving you this. Okay, sorry. Sorry for the... I mean, it gave me an existential crisis too. You know, after watching that video, I was a lot more aware of my thought process. And this is something I've realized, you know, for my whole life, is that there's a disconnect between what I feel and what I think, right? So anxiety, for example, you fear things that have no logical basis, and you know you shouldn't fear these things, but you fear them anyway, right? And it's always been that way for me, and I've always been aware of it, but that just made me more aware of it, right? Even if it's wrong, it will try to justify it, and it will be very, very confident about it, even if it's just bullshit. Oh. It's very logical to fear women. Oh god. Part of my brain is plotting for my own downfall. Scary. Yeah. No, part of your brain... How do I explain it? It's not plotting for your own downfall. Part of your brain is just doing its own thing, and then the other part is trying to explain what it's doing. You know? It also ties into when people say, oh, trust your instincts, or this is what my gut feeling tells me. They don't really have a logical explanation for feeling how they feel, but they do feel the way they feel for a reason, right? They just don't know what that reason is yet. The other part is a reaction streamer, yes. Yup, exactly. Wait, we're supposed to have brains? Yeah, can you believe it? You should have asked, wait, you guys have brains? Anyway, the weather. Good god, the weather again.